You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie, and I'm proud of the life I have, surrounded by military and aware just how big the world really is. I have a unique perspective on life and the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. Alright, it's Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? Yes, I miss you when we're not talking. What a weekend. No, really, what a weekend. We have had, in the span of 4 days, some really insane developments. First, we have potential peace on the Korean Peninsula, and now we have Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu attempting to prove what I've been saying all along, that the Iran nuclear deal isn't worth the paper it's printed on. Now, we are going to get to it. I've got some show prep and all the good stuff. But this is absolutely groundbreaking. And I have to say, leave it to the Israelis and their vaunted Mossad to be able to get their hands on this stuff when no one else even knew it existed. Now, because of the seriousness of the topic, okay? Because of the seriousness of the topic, I am going to run a shorter than usual commercial break. I cannot go completely commercial free. Nothing else. I need a drink of water. But I do have audio clips from Benjamin Netanyahu's speech discussing this. And we're going to go through it. So this is going to be one of those long nights. And you're going to hear lots of audio. And I am going to intersperse with commentary. And things of that nature. So this is pretty much going to be a one-topic show. Alright? I may have a couple little updates in the end on other topics, but this is primarily going to be a one-topic show. Now, for those of you listening for the first time, I'm going to do a real quick explanation. I cover military and international affairs and I do sometimes do other little topics, but very small commentary on them. I do try and make it clear as to what is fact and what is my opinion. I really do. And you are welcome, if you're listening live, to join me in the chat room. And that's over at KLRNradio.com/chat. All right. Let's get started. Here is the first audio clip. And remember, the speaker is Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, he does have some excerpts from senior leadership in Iran, and the voices you actually hear are for the most part, the translator. You can hear the Farsi playing quietly, and the Farsi speaker in the background. I purposely didn't try and edit out the little bits of Farsi, just so you knew I wasn't tampering with Netanyahu's speech. All right, here is the first audio clip.
That Iran has been hiding for years from the international community in its secret atomic archive. We're going to show you Iran's secret nuclear files.
All right, so they got the nuclear files.
You may well know that Iran's leaders repeatedly deny ever pursuing nuclear weapons.
All right, so we've heard for years the Iranians claim we don't have nuclear weapons. We never wanted them. Anybody buy that one? Because
that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
If you didn't have nuclear weapons or you weren't pursuing them, why do you have all the centrifuges that Stuxnet took out? Let's continue with Netanyahu's comment.
You can listen to Iran's Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei.
I stress that the Islamic Republic has never been after nuclear weapons.
All right. If Iran was never after nuclear weapons, why did they have underground bunkers? Why did they have massive amounts of centrifuges spinning that the Stuxnet virus that was released several years back take out? Can anybody riddle me that one? And for those of you just tuning in, you have two ways to communicate with me during the show. You can join me over in the chat room at klrnradio.com/chat, or you can tag me in a tweet. I do keep my notifications tab open during the show. I don't respond necessarily to tweets, but you might hear something on the air. All right. So if they didn't have nuclear weapons, what was the point of the centrifuges? I'm sorry, that's the only point. Now, let's continue with our audio clips. Here's Iran's president explaining why Iran would never go after nuclear weapons. If it wasn't so serious, it would be laughable, in my opinion.
You can listen to Iran's president, Hassan Rouhani.
Nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction have no place in Iran's security and defense doctrine and contradict our fundamental religious and ethical convictions.
All right, so Rouhani claims that nuclear weapons would be a direct conflict with their ethical and religious values. I'm sorry, that doesn't ring true. Because if you do what I did, and I'm going to do this again live on air, I'm going to wander over to Google. Iran nuclear weapons. And we're going to jump to about page 3. Why am I jumping? Because I want to get older stuff that isn't necessarily from today. Although we're still on today, so we're going to jump to about page 5. Of course, now, Benjamin Netanyahu said he will has shared the information with the U.S., and the U.S. can confirm the authenticity. Well, guess what? The U.S. officials who reviewed the documents confirmed the authenticity and said Israel has shared the information fully with the United States. Now, I will say that this could help build a case for Trump to abandon the nuclear deal. I've always expressed the same opinion of the nuclear deal. It's got more holes than good quality Swiss cheese. It has so many secret side deals. And yes, for the record, I have read every page of the nuclear deal. Now, let's continue with the audio clips because I want to let Benjamin Netanyahu make his case.
After signing the nuclear deal in 2015, Iran intensified its efforts to hide its secret nuclear files. In 2017, Iran moved its nuclear weapons files to a highly secret location in Tehran. This is the Shorabad district in southern Tehran.
All right, so after they signed the nuclear deal, they moved all the files. Now, they didn't do it right away. They did it later. So, I want to back up for just a minute. Everyone's going, well, how did they get it? Well, in the 1950s, we actually gave Tehran a small 5 megawatt research reactor fueled by highly enriched uranium. And that was, 1967 was when we actually gave them the reactor. It started in the 50s. At that time, Iran was an ally. Then, in the revolution, in 1979, the Shah was overthrown. And the gift fell into the hands of people that we could no longer trust. For those of you who aren't old enough to remember, Iran held American citizens hostage for over a year. Iran held American citizens hostage for over a year. All right, now, let's keep listening.
This was an innocent-looking compound. It looks like a dilapidated warehouse. But from the inside, it contained Iran's secret atomic archives locked in massive files. Actually, they're a little bigger than this, okay? A few weeks ago, in a great intelligence achievement, Israel obtained 0.5 ton of the material inside these vaults.
All right, so they managed to get a lot of information. Now, Why would you store something in a vault if it wasn't to protect it from outside prying eyes? Yeah, I know. As a kid, maybe you thought you needed a vault to keep your little brother or little sister out of your toys. These are governments. They don't put toys in vaults. Now, let's continue. So, we gave them the reactor, and then there was the Iran-Iraq War. Well, that ended in 1989. So they no longer had the costly burden of the Iran-Iraq War. So Iranian leaders began focusing on nuclear technology acquisition in the late 80s. I mean, it really became their be-all and end-all. Now, China lent a hand. Remember, I'm always saying China, Russia, and North Korea trade with Iran? Ding, ding, ding. We've got a winner. China agreed to provide Iran with a 27 kilowatt miniature neutron source reactor and two 300 megawatt Kinshan power reactors. In January 1995, Russia said it would complete the construction and agreed to build 3 additional reactors. Now, U.S. intelligence, as well as intelligence agencies of our allies, and yes, that includes Israel, has long suspected this nuclear energy program from a country that has so much oil was nothing more than a farce. You heard me. Nothing more than a farce. It was a cover story. In fact, 1992, Russia and Iran signed a bilateral nuclear cooperation agreement. And in a follow-up in 95, that's when they agreed to complete the Bushehr nuclear power plant, and also secretly offered to supply Iran with a large research reactor, a fuel fabrication facility, and a gas centrifuge plant. Now, got to give Clinton some props. You know, I give credit where credit was due. Clinton expressed concern about the technology being transfers to Russia, Russian President Boris Yeltsin, who scaled it back a little bit, at least until Bushehr's construction had been completed. But Russian scientists assisted the Iranian engineers to develop this. Now let's get a couple more clips from Netanyahu.
And here's what we got. 55,000 pages, another 55,000 files on 183 CDs.
That's a lot of information when you consider files can be huge. Files can be really big. All right. Let's continue.
We've shared this material with the United States, and the United States can vouch for its authenticity. We will also share it with other countries, and we'll share it with the International Atomic Energy Agency. So let me tell you the history of this material. We've known for years that Iran had a secret nuclear weapons program called Project Ahmad.
All right, so the name of the project was Ahmad. Want to bet they rename it before the sun went down when this hit the fan? Now, remember, they didn't get really heavily into this until after the Iran nuclear war. And the United States has verified that these documents are authentic.
We can now prove that Project Ahmad was a comprehensive program to design, build, and test nuclear weapons. We can also prove that Iran is secretly storing Project Ahmad material to use at a time of its choice to develop nuclear weapons.
All right, so they are not only developing nuclear weapons and storing up the stuff they would need to build them, they were keeping it as quiet as possible. Now, there's good reason to keep things like this quiet, but Iran at the time was under a number of sanctions, dating at least from the U.S. perspective, many of them internationally. I have long said that the former most sanctioned country in the world, Iran, wrote the book on how to evade sanctions and handed that playbook off to North Korea. Now back to what's going on here. In 2002, the existence of the Natanz enrichment complex was revealed. Now, what was the Natanz enrichment complex? Okay, let's talk about it real quick. We will get into a little bit more of the audio clips in a minute. Natanz is Iran's primary enrichment facility. It houses both commercial fuel enrichment plant and a pilot fuel enrichment plant. It has 3 underground buildings, 2 of which are designed to hold 50,000 centrifuges, 6 above-ground buildings. Now, 2 of the above-ground buildings are for 2,500 meter long halls used for gas centrifuges. These sites are under IAEA safeguards, quote unquote. I put that in quotes because I've said before, there is so many loopholes in that Iran nuclear deal. In some cases, we let Iran take their own samples. That's like letting the fox guard the hen house, kids. Now, we are almost coming up on a commercial break, so I want to get in a couple more points, and we will go through the steps that Netanyahu lays out when we get back from break. But here's the second quote he had to say about Project Ahmad.
Here's what Project Ahmad's explicit goal was: creating nuclear weapons. This is an original Iranian presentation from these files. And here's the mission statement: design, produce, and test 5 warheads, each with 10 kiloton TNT yield, for integration on a missile. You don't have to read Farsi to see 10 kilotons here, TNT.
Now, 10 kilotons may not sound like a lot, but when you look at what was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, okay, ten kilotons can do significant damage. Alright, we're going to do a little history here. We dropped 2 nuclear. We are the only nation to use nuclear weapons. I acknowledge that. Little boy contained 2 uranium-235 components, and I'm looking for the yield in megatons here. And unfortunately, I am not finding it. But uranium-235, we've already heard that brought up more than once. Okay? Now, I'm going to keep looking for those yields while we talk about this. 10 kilotons may not sound like a lot. But it's large enough to do significant damage. Little boy was 4 kilotons. 4 kilotons. Iran is developing 10 kilotons. And Batman was between 12 and 18. So you are talking about the Nagasaki bomb. Iran, approximately. We're going to ballpark it and say it's the closest example we have. So, Iran wanted to develop 5 of them. Alright, folks, it has come to the point for me to pay those radio station bills. Now, I am going to take a slightly shorter commercial break tonight. And I will see you on the other side.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
Thank you all for joining me tonight, and thank you for hanging in there with me while we paid those radio station bills. Now, for those of you just tuning in, we have been discussing Iran's Project Ahmad, aka Iran's nuclear weapons documents. Benjamin Netanyahu spoke about earlier today. Now, here's the first steps.
First element is designing nuclear weapons. This is an original Iranian illustration of a weapon. Again, you don't have to read Farsi to understand this. This is U-235, that's enriched uranium, right here at the core. That's the only place where you find in the core enriched uranium.
And remember, I was just talking about the weapons of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the one at Hiroshima had U-235. Sound familiar yet, friends? All right, here's the second step.
Developing nuclear cores. Here's a photo showing the casting process and a cast metal core from the archives. And here's the secret underground facility the Iranians were building to produce nuclear cores. We have hundreds of documents for each of these components.
All right, so first of all, their first three steps, it's pretty logical. If you're going to make something go boom, you got to have the thing that goes boom. And in terms of a nuclear weapon, you need to have the core. Now, the core is the radioactive stuff and the things that go around it. It also includes what's called a fire set. Now, fire sets on nuclear devices are tricky. They have to be designed just so, or you won't get boom. At least not that big boom with the mushroom cloud. All right. Now, here's step 3.
Third component. Building nuclear implosion systems. This is an original Iranian photo of a measuring device for implosions. And here's a simulation of a nuclear implosion. Fourth element.
All right, so implosion systems, that's the fire set I was discussing. That's what makes it go boom.
Fourth element. Preparing nuclear tests. Here's a map of 5 potential locations for a nuclear test in eastern Iran. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have many, many more such documents. And fifth.
All right, and for those of you who aren't aware, nuclear tests, even if they're underground, can be detected. And you're looking at me going, how? Underground nuclear explosion will show up on earthquake monitors. And trained experts can tell the difference between an earthquake and a man-made disturbance that caused one. That's how we knew when North Korea did their latest test. It was North Korea doing a nuclear test, not an earthquake, and what the approximate yield was. Now, here's the fifth component.
And fifth, integrating nuclear weapons on missiles. Here's a design for a nuclear payload on a Shahab-3 missile from the archive.
All right, so step 5 is you got to have a way to get it there. And Shahab-3 is one of Iran's missiles. Now, need I remind you at this point that Iran and North Korea have collaborated on many parts, especially of missile technology. We have gone over this in previous episodes. That I have charted some of their unofficial communications and contacts and exchanges. The ones I've been able to trace. Trust me, the ones I couldn't trace were more scary. All right. Let's get back to what Prime Minister Netanyahu is saying.
And I don't have to remind you, I think, that Iran is continually expanding the range of its ballistic missiles, its nuclear-capable missiles. They started with 1,000 kilometers. They're now up to 2,000, roughly. They can reach Riyadh, Tel Aviv, Moscow, but they're working on far, far greater ranges. They're planning.
All right. What most people either don't know, have forgotten, or overlooked. The Iran nuclear deal focused on territory within the Iranian borders. I have brought this up before. I will bring it up here again tonight. Iran is believed to be helping Syria, yes, Syria, build an underground nuclear facility. Now, do I need to remind you what happened the last time Syria tried to build an underground nuclear facility? Do I? For those of you who aren't regulars, why not? Let's briefly mention it.
10 years ago, the North Koreans transferred a plutonium production reactor to Syria. It was crushed by the Israelis. If it had not been crushed, that reactor could be providing plutonium not only to Syrians, but to others who have traipsed through Syria, and these are pretty unsavory folks. And that's an image that goes to nuclear terrorism we don't like to contemplate.
By the way, that reactor was sold by North Korea to Syria. What I believe then happened is they sold a reactor to raise capital to further their nuclear weapons program. Now in Iran, and I'm going on speculation here, I'm playing connect the dots. When Iran got all that money from President Obama, the ransom, yes, in my mind it was a ransom, that's a topic for another show. He paid for the Americans to leave Tehran, Iran. I fully believe that a large chunk of it ended up in Pyongyang. Now, the other thing you have to remember is that Iran funds Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthi rebels. How many stories have you heard me lately where the Houthis are shooting missiles into Riyadh? Can we say missile testing program? Now, Secretary of State, not Secretary of State, Ambassador Nikki Haley made the point about Iran's fingerprints being all over the place. Oh yeah. And I'm looking for the audio clip now. But Iran's fingerprints have spread so far and so wide that it is hard to find a conflict in the Middle East that they're not involved in. It seriously is. Iran's fingerprints are showing up everywhere in the Middle East. And she seriously, well, don't take my word for it. Let's hear her.
Aid from Iran's Revolutionary Guard to dangerous militias and terror groups is increasing. Its ballistic missiles and advanced weapons are turning up in war zones across the region. It's hard to find a conflict or a terrorist group in the Middle East that does not have Iran's fingerprints all over it.
All right. So, Iran is a known threat. Now, wasn't the Iran nuclear deal supposed to make their behavior better? Well, what does Ambassador Haley have to say about that?
As President Trump announced on October 13th, the United States is taking a new approach to Iran by focusing on all of the regime's destabilizing behavior. That means we are not just focused on the nuclear program. We're also taking a hard look at Iran's ballistic missile program, its arms exports, and its support for terrorists, proxy fighters, and dictators. Our new strategy was prompted by the undeniable fact that the Iranian regime's behavior is growing worse. The nuclear deal has done nothing to moderate the regime's conduct in other areas.
The Iran nuclear deal was supposed to calm down Iran and bring them back into the folds. Now, everybody says, snap back sanctions, snap back sanctions. Other countries were so eager to get in there, many of them allies. There may be no more sanctions except unilateral. Now, I've got some comments from a special rapporteur from the UN who presented at the Security Council last year.
The report contained preliminary observations indicating that first, the two missiles had similar features, which suggested a common origin.
And this was to whether the missiles that landed in Riyadh were the same as the ones Iran is known to use.
2, the missiles contained features that are consistent with missiles of the Scud family. 3, the missiles also had features known to be consistent with the Qiyam-1 missile. And 4, one of the missiles bore castings similar to that of an Iranian entity on the list maintained pursuant to Resolution 2231.
All right, so we know that Iran is building missiles. They're also building bases in Syria. They're launching drones into Israel. They are launching missiles and rockets from Yemen into Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Here's a second clip from the same rapporteur.
The Secretariat is confident that close to 900 of the assault rifles seized by the United States are identical to those seized by France, also in March 2016, which the Secretariat had assessed were of Iranian origin and shipped from the Islamic Republic of Iran.
And these were weapons that were found in the hands of Daesh or ISIS and Houthi and Hamas rebels. Iran is supplying weapons to terrorists. Iran is known worldwide as the largest state sponsor of terror. This is why their nuclear program was so horrific. Now, in February 2006, Tehran ended its voluntary implementation of the additional protocol and resumed enrichment at Natanz. Yes, voluntary implementation of an additional protocol from the Iran nuclear deal. This goes back to my comments about the Iran nuclear deal having more holes than good quality Swiss cheese. That's when the UN Security Council released a statement calling on Iran to cooperate with the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Association. President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad responded by delivering a speech in April. This is back in 2006, so if it sounded like I said the wrong Iranian president, I'm talking historic. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad responded by delivering a speech which he discussed Iran's possession of a second uranium enrichment facility with P2 centrifuges. So that's when the P5+1, the people that crafted the Iran nuclear deal, offered to provide Tehran with advanced civilian nuclear technology if Iran suspended enrichment activities and resumed implementation of the additional protocol. Iran responded to this proposal in a letter addressed to George W. Bush. Now, this was pre-Iran nuclear deal, which made only a brief reference to the nuclear issue and did not address the demands to the international community. So, we fast forward a few more years. On September 21st, 2009, Iran disclosed to the IAEA it was building a second pilot enrichment facility. And the IAEA's spokesperson, Vidakari, his letter stated that the enrichment level would be up to 5%. And the agency was assured that we'll get you more information later. Folks,
that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Then they started their Fordo fuel enrichment program. It was slated to hold nearly 3,000 centrifuges. And Iran contradicted its declaration to the IAEA concerning planned enrichment levels by moving to 19.75% enrichment activities from Natanz to Fordo. That's when the IAEA started going, wait, we have a problem. It takes 30% to create the biggest boom. That doesn't mean it's very hard to go from 20% to 33%. And for those of you who would like to know more about nuclear reactors and how you enrich uranium, there is a Conversations in Science episode. It's titled Heavy Water and Nuclear Reactors, or something to that effect. Now, on July 13th, 2011, this is a name that's going to sound familiar, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov proposed a phased approach to addressing the nuclear dispute with Iran. This was the start of the Iran nuclear deal. Okay? In response, at each stage, the P5+1 would gradually lift sanctions imposed unilaterally through the United Nations Security Council. Iran initially welcomed the Russian plan, but the United States, the United Kingdom, and France did not accept the idea of lifting sanctions at an early stage. Now we go to November 2011. An IAEA report came out and said that there was possible military dimensions to Iran's nuclear program. This was the first time the report assembled available evidence into one overview document. According to the report, Iran had been engaged in a range of activities relevant to the development of a nuclear explosive device. This included efforts to procure nuclear-related and, quote, dual-use equipment and materials by military-related individuals and entities. And just for those of you who don't know what dual use is, that means it's got a very common civilian use, and then it's got a nefarious use, kind of like chlorine. You can throw some chlorine bleach in your washer to clean your socks, make them bright and shiny, or you can turn it into chlorine gas and hurt people. It is dual use. So in other words, it has a good use and a bad use. So then the report further stated that prior to the end of 2003, those activities took place under a structured program. And remember, this report was issued in 2011. But the report further stated that prior to the end of 2003, those activities took place under a structured program, and that there were some activities relevant to the development of a nuclear explosive device continued after 2003 and may be ongoing. Alright, so we're going to fast forward a little bit because I am also almost out of time. In June 2012, negotiations in Moscow, the parties didn't budge. They were all locked up. Then, in August 2012, President Obama signed into law the Iran Threat Reduction Syrian Human Rights Act, expanding sanctions against Iran. The law included a ban on the provision of insurance, reinsurance, and other shipping services to vessels of entities involved in nuclear proliferation. That meant if you brought stuff to Iran to help them grow their nuclear weapons program, you were going to have trouble getting shipping insurance. Now, the proposal envisioned Iran would suspend enrichment to 20% of U-235, ship its 20% enriched stockpile out of Iran. Now, there was an exception for medical isotopes before anyone wants to scream and yell, and agree to IAEA verification measures and suspend operations, but not dismantle the cascades at Fordo for 6 months. Now, Congress, when they approved legislation to further limit Iran's exports and access to foreign currency reserves in May 2013. Obama also signed an executive order that authorized sanctions against any foreign financial institution that conducted significant transactions in Iranian oil or maintains rial, Iranian currency accounts outside of Iran. Then we get Rouhani, current Iranian president. Yes. And then here comes the Iran nuclear deal. And that's where we are today. We have the Iran nuclear deal that I have stated has more holes than good quality Swiss cheese. And now you have heard Benjamin Netanyahu's comments about the Iranian nuclear weapons program. Now, there is a lot that can be said about nuclear weapons, but I have one audio clip that just sums it up. And I will play it for you in just a moment. but there's so much we don't know.
While I don't know if those missiles can actually hit what they're aimed at, but like horseshoes and hand grenades, getting close is all that's needed when you're dealing with nuclear weapons.
And that was Admiral Harris. All right, folks, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Just as a reminder, you can follow me on Twitter at Radio Host Jesse. And if you missed any of this or any other episode of Jesse's POV, you can find it on many popular podcast locations, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. I'm gone.